Hey everyone, welcome back. If you caught our last update about DOGE and Social Security, then you already know things were heating up. And if you're just joining us for the first time, welcome in. You're not too late, because what's happening right now could impact millions of people, especially those who rely on Social Security or care about protecting their personal information. Here's the big update. The Trump administration has officially asked the Supreme Court to allow Elon Musk's agency, yes, the Department of Government Efficiency, or DOGE, to access the Social Security Administration's most sensitive data systems. That's right. They're taking this all the way to the highest court in the country. If you thought this story was over after the appeals court ruling, it's not. In fact, we may be entering the most critical chapter yet. So let's break down why this matters, what's already happened, and what the next decision could mean for you and your family. Before we dive deeper, I'd love to hear your thoughts. Should DOGE be allowed access to Social Security data to fight fraud? Or are the privacy risks just too high? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I read every one of them. And if you find this helpful, hit that subscribe button so you don't miss future updates. There's a lot more coming as this case unfolds. Let's rewind for a moment to make sure we're all on the same page. DOGE, the Department of Government Efficiency, was launched during President Trump's second term as part of a sweeping plan to cut waste and inject tech-driven reforms across federal agencies. Elon Musk was tapped to lead the agency, and his approach was simple: disrupt everything, replace outdated systems, automate slow processes, and challenge long-standing government routines. At first, the idea had broad support. Who doesn't want a more efficient government? But then came DOGE's request for access to one of the most sensitive databases in the federal system, Social Security. This includes names, addresses, medical histories, disability claims, income statements, direct deposit info, even tax records. And DOGE wanted all of it, at once. They claimed the data would be used to fight fraud through programs like Are You Alive?, aimed at stopping payments to deceased individuals and correcting deposit errors. But critics raised red flags fast. The concern wasn't just what DOGE wanted, it was how they tried to get it. They didn't go through Congress. There were no public hearings. Instead, they issued an internal administrative order granting themselves access. That's when things took a turn. Reports surfaced that DOGE staff were already in the system, some without full background checks or required privacy training. Insiders claimed data had already been accessed without clear oversight. In February, labor unions and privacy groups filed a lawsuit, calling it a massive overreach and a violation of the Privacy Act. Then in April, federal judge Elon stepped in with a ruling that changed everything. She blocked DOGE from accessing the Social Security Administration's internal systems, called their actions a fishing expedition, and said they lacked a strong enough justification to bypass long-standing privacy protections. She also ordered DOGE to delete any data they had accessed without approval and prohibited them from modifying Social Security software. Privacy advocates celebrated the ruling, but it wasn't the end. DOGE appealed. The case went to the Fourth Circuit Court of Appeals. In a tight vote, 9 judges in favor, 6 against, the court upheld Judge Hollander's decision. The majority agreed that the privacy risks were too great, especially considering the scope of the request and the lack of transparency. One standout opinion came from Judge Robert King, who reminded everyone that Americans have trusted the Social Security system with personal data since 1935. That trust, he said, rests on the expectation that this information stays protected and isn't shared without a compelling reason. Fast forward to today. President Trump's team has filed an emergency appeal with the Supreme Court. Their argument? The lower courts are blocking vital anti-fraud efforts. They say DOGE is being prevented from fulfilling its mission, and that each day the ruling stands, taxpayers are losing money to fraud and inefficiency. Solicitor General John Sauer, representing the administration, argued the decision is causing ongoing irreparable harm. He's asking the Supreme Court to immediately lift the restrictions and give DOGE full access. Chief Justice John Roberts has already responded. He's asked the opposing side, made up of labor unions, retirees, and civil liberties groups, to submit their arguments by May 12th. That shows the court is taking this case seriously. A full hearing before all 9 justices is likely. If that happens, it could become one of the most consequential cases in recent memory involving digital privacy and government authority. Because, let's be honest, this isn't just about DOGE anymore. If the court allows this level of access, it could set a precedent for other agencies. Tax records, immigration databases, student loans. The implications are huge. So the real question is, what kind of government do we want? One that moves fast and breaks barriers in the name of efficiency, or one that safeguards your data even if it moves more slowly? It's a difficult balance, and reasonable people will land on both sides. But it's a conversation worth having. Let's also keep in mind, DOGE isn't some legacy agency. While it's made headlines for innovation, it's also drawn criticism for rushing ahead without following procedure and placing underqualified people in sensitive roles. Court documents reveal that some DOGE contractors weren't fully vetted. In some cases, system changes were made without notifying key SSA personnel. That's a serious problem, especially when the information in question affects healthcare, finances, or benefit eligibility. Judge Hollander made a powerful point in her ruling. Just because an agency wants to solve a problem doesn't mean it can ignore the law. Privacy still matters. And so does process. Some defenders argue DOGE already has access to data from Treasury and education. But the Social Security Administration isn't just another data warehouse, it holds decades of deeply personal information. If mishandled, that data could expose people to identity theft, financial ruin, or worse. If you're currently receiving Social Security benefits, here's what you need to know. Your data is still protected. DOGE does not have access. The SSA is operating as usual. Your payments are going out. Nothing has changed. Yet. But depending on how the Supreme Court rules, that could change. That's why it's so important to pay attention, not just to what's happening in Congress or the White House, but to what's happening in the courts, because this is where the real decisions are being made. So, what does this mean for the future? As more of our lives move online, governments will keep asking for more access to data, to systems, to records. There will always be pressure to act faster, cheaper, and more efficiently. But that doesn't mean we stop asking the hard questions. Who's watching the watchers? Who decides what's necessary and what's excessive? And who protects your rights when the pace gets too fast? These are the questions at the heart of this case. And I'm glad we're here having this conversation. So let's keep it going. Leave a comment with your take, especially if you've been following this story from the beginning. Do you feel safer knowing the courts blocked DOGE, or do you think the Supreme Court should let them back in? And if you're new here or just haven't subscribed yet, now's a good time. We'll be tracking every development in this case, and I'll be here to break it all down, just like always. Thanks for spending your time with me today. Take care, stay safe, and I'll see you in the next one.